A very good afternoon to everyone, respected panel. So we are discussing about challenging cases in comprehensive ophthalmology. I shall be presenting a challenging case of exudative retinal detachment, and we'll see how these are so challenging in all the respects of diagnosis, investigation and management. So to begin with the case, it's a case of a 32-year-old male with diminution of vision in the left eye since 2 weeks. He said he had headache and tinnitus on the simultaneous onset. The best corrected visual acuity was 20/20 in the right eye and 20/80 in the left eye. The intraocular pressure and the slit lamp biomicroscopy was within normal limits in both the eyes, and funduscopy revealed presence of a 360-degree choroidal detachment with retinal detachment in the inferior quadrant of the left eye, as can be seen in the fundus photograph and the B scan here. There was an increased choroidal thickness as well. So in fundus fluorescein angiography along with indocyanine green angiography was done, which revealed presence of inflammation in both the eye, as can be evident here and here, with blocked fluorescence because of the retinal detachment. OCT revealed presence of subretinal fluid and a lumpy bumpy RPE, retinal pigment epithelium, with hyperreflective foci. So at this stage, the patient received a diagnosis of Vogt-Koyanagi-Harada syndrome and received pulse intravenous methylprednisolone followed by tapering doses of systemic corticosteroid with systemic azathioprine. A 1-month follow-up, patient was symptomatically better, headache and tinnitus subsided. However, the best corrected visual acuity was maintained at 20/80. At this point, the fundus showed something like leopard spot retinopathy in the left eye, and there was persistence of inferior retinal detachment, although the choroidal detachment has subsided. Again, the fundus fluorescein and the indocyanine green was repeated. There was resolution of the inflammation in the right eye. However, there was blocked fluorescence in the left eye persisting, along with there is an increase in the leopard spot in the left eye. The OCT at this spot, although showed a resolution of the subretinal fluid, there was this RP folds and hyperreflective foci. At this stage, the diagnosis was revisited, and we suspected that this could be a lymphoma, and we did a PET CT scan. However, it did not reveal any malignancy. MRI brain and Orbin did not reveal any presence of lymphoma. At this stage, we reverted back to another imaging technique, that is ultrasound biomicroscopy, and this revealed presence of uveal effusion syndrome. The axial length of the patient was 20.97, and hence the patient was diagnosed as type 3 uveal effusion syndrome, and posterior subtenon injection was given. 3 months later, the base corrected visual acuity improved to 20/30. However, there were persistence of retinal detachment in the left eye in the inferior quadrant alone. So story does not end here. Comprehensively we have to see. So there were systemic challenges as well. At the baseline, patient was something like this. However, in follow-up visit, we can see there was sparsity of the hair, sparsity of the dentition. So this was present in the mother as well, and a genetic counseling was done, which revealed presence of WNT10A gene abnormality. So what was known before this, that uveal effusion syndrome in itself is a very rare cause of exudative retinal detachment. In these cases, imaging comes handy. Systemic immunosuppression is not much effective. Familiar cases, only one has been reported, and type 3 is more and more rare. What's new, that it is not idiopathic. WNT10A could be a pathology behind it, and the mutations of WNT has been implied in other ectodermal dysplasias, and it interferes with the interaction between the epithelial cells as well as the underlying mesenchymal cells during the embryogenesis. It's found in the tight junction formations that allows the transfer of molecules in culture studies. It has been studied in keratoconus and in age-related macular disorders, degenerations, and familial exudative vitreoretinopathy. Till date, none has reported association of WNT10A with uveal effusion syndrome. So our hypothesis is that it might affect the interphotoreceptor matrix, or the adhesion between the RP and the Bruch's membrane, that predisposes to accumulation of fluid in the various layers of neurosensory retina, and through its expression in the intercellular adhesion molecules and vascular endothelial growth factor. So to conclude, it's an entity of diagnostic challenge, and a careful and thorough systemic evaluation is required to clinch the diagnosis. And we hereby report the first case of uveal effusion syndrome with WNT10A gene mutation. Thank you.